Finally, Lekon Adekambi has been sentenced to death by hanging. This was a man who wiped out an entire family on New Year's Day of 2023, all because they refused to increase his salary. For those of you who don't remember this story, because we covered it way back in 2023, around this time of 2023, this was a story that was all over the news about the Fatinoye family who were targeted and murdered. And we all thought it was political because the man was the former chairman, or he was working in a bank at the time. So we all did not even look close to home. And it so turned out that it was his driver, Lekon Adekambi, who orchestrated the robbery and the murder of the man, his wife, and his son, Ore Oluwa. After 2 years of trial, in February of 2025, he and 3 others were found guilty of killing the Fatinoye family, and they were all sentenced to death by hanging or lethal injection. However, there's something about this story I want everyone watching to know, because I just learned about it, and this goes to show you that you can be easily implicated in the big picture of a devilish crime that someone else committed. Because not only were these 3 people affected, there were 3 other people who did not directly even kill this family that are now suffering. One even going to jail for as long as 14 years for something that they most likely did not take part in. And this is how easily you or anyone could be implicated in a crime you did not commit. You got to be careful who you help. You got to be careful who comes to your house to drop what. You got to be careful, even in your job, who comes to give you a property, to sometimes even a mobile phone. All of yours that used to buy second-hand phones from people, you don't know that these things could actually land you in jail, because some of these properties are stolen. And when the people they stole it from were murdered, you who bought it would be implicated. Just to flash back the story, back then in 2023, it was said that the Fatinoye family were coming back from crossover night from the 2022. It was New Year's Day. Hey, Happy New Year. So they went home with their son, Ore Oluwa, their adopted son, who doubled as a maid. At the time we thought he was a maid, but he was the adopted son, Felix, along with his wife, Bukola, then the man, Kehinde Fatinoye, all returned from crossover night. All nice, all fun. And while they were in the house, they were attacked by armed robbers, 3 armed men who came with cutlass and guns. It was believed that the men wore masks at the time and they began demanding money. But somewhere along the line, the identity of one of them that turned out to be Lekon was revealed to the family. So they now know that, oh, wait, even if maybe through his voice they would have known, because Lekon was the driver. So this is somebody they've been working with for a very long time. And that was how they made they most likely, or maybe he didn't even try to hide his face because he knew from the get-go that he was going to kill them. The Fatinoye family were made and forced to transfer the sum of 1.something million naira into his account. They were robbed of their valuables, and eventually they were shot, butchered, bludgeoned, and completely burnt to death. Like, after shooting, stabbing, cutting, and using hammer on them, this human being went on to set the house on fire along with the bodies. And it was the house getting on fire that attracted the neighbors, who raised the alarm, and that was how the story blew up, and we were all up and wondering what happened to this family. I remember the story back then. I remember, from what I can remember, we all felt that it was some kind of politics. We all felt it was somebody who he had worked for. Some people came with their theories that the man worked in a bank. Where did he work? He was in CBN. He worked somewhere where, he had access to money, and they say maybe he stole some money and the people came for him. So people had their conspiracy theory and everything was happening. His son, Ore Oluwa, and Felix were kidnapped. They weren't killed in the house. Lekon and his cohorts took the 2 boys, tied them up, both hands and legs. They were bound, sealed their mouths, drove them to a river and threw them alive into the river, hoping with their hands tied up, they would drown and die. Unfortunately for one of them, Ore Oluwa, the son of Mr. Kehinde Fatinoye, he lost his life in the river. He died from drowning. The adopted son, Felix, however, made it out, and he was able to get help. And at the time, because this happened days later where he was found, at the time the police had already begun investigating, and they were also looking for Lekon and the son, Orelua, because people had their theories. We even thought maybe it was the son and the adopted son that most likely did it, because you never would know. It, however, turned out that that was not the case. When the police were able to reunite with Felix, Felix did not even waste time. Felix did not waste time. He just went straight and said it was Lekon, their driver, that did it. But you also need to remember something. I'm not sure how it happened. Back then, there was something that was tricky with the kids. Lekon was caught and arrested as the driver, but maybe they weren't suspecting him. They were just questioning him because they did not have anything on him. So he lied and he gave his statement. Lekon did not know that Felix survived. He thought that his gang did a good job in killing the two boys. But when he eventually learned and the police revealed to him that, okay, since you say you know nothing, Felix actually has survived and he's coming to the station to give a statement. And that was when Lekon fainted. He fainted and then he was taken to the hospital where he escaped and ran away. This was all happening in January, but a few weeks later, in 21st of January, he was rearrested and taken back to prison, where he totally admitted to killing the Fatinoye family and claimed that it was because his boss was stingy, they were overusing him, he's just a driver, or they will make him do houseboy work, that he even asked to borrow money and they refused to give him a loan to buy a motorcycle, and that they don't want to increase his salary, and all of those bits. And I remember my feeling with the story back then. I was like, see, that is your problem. If you get a job and you agree to a salary, you've agreed. If you want a salary increase and they don't give you, you leave. This story had something in my mind. Like, I think it was this case that made me understand that the kinder you are to some people, the more entitled they feel. The nicer you are, the more you keep them in your space, the more you are kind and nice and generous to them, the more they feel like you owe them. Because tell me why you want to wipe out an entire family because they refuse to increase your salary. When your boss refuses to increase your salary, you leave the job. When you ask for a loan and they don't give you, you move on. But this bastard thought that he deserves their money, the money belongs to him, is entitled to it. And that was why he felt the need to hire two other men to come into this family home and destroy their lives. And because of that, me personally, I've been careful with being nice to people, because I'm not gonna lie, I have had experiences with that. To be frank, I've seen it happen. Even though it hasn't gotten to that point where somebody will hire armed robbers to come and kill me and tie me up. You tend to see it. The nicer you are to some people, the more they feel like you are going to be a target. The more they want to target you, because now they feel like there is more where that came from, and they will now start to feel like you're stingy. Now, let's talk about the people who were implicated in this story that did not do anything. So don't forget, there were three people: Lekon, Odetola, and Adeniyi. All three people who went to rob the family were sentenced to death by hanging or lethal injection. Those are the people who did the robbery. However, Lekon's mother was sentenced to 1 year in prison because she wrote a false statement. This was around the time they were looking for him, and probably he hid in the home. So she was taken to and had to write a statement. And her statement was proven to be false. And because of that, the woman is going to prison for 1 year. His wife was given 2 years for what? Trying to hide her husband. She knew where the husband was and did not divulge that information, knowing very well that he has been implicated in a crime like this. And now there was another man named Aziz Usman, who was a welder. This welder was just minding his business one day. Around this time in January, when Lekon calls him and be like, "Oh, what's up, Aziz? I have a small work for you. There's this vehicle I just got. I need you to do some tweaking. I want you to change a little bit of part. I want you to, make it not look familiar, because, I want to change. I want you to pimp my ride." Pretty much. And that was what Aziz thought he was doing, pimping the ride for Lekon. He did not know that this was a vehicle that was stolen from a family that had been wiped out. Or did he know? He most likely did not, because if he did, he would have gotten more sentencing. However, for just working on a vehicle that he had no idea where it came from. Aziz's man is now going to jail for 14 years. And this is where I feel like many people need to just be aware that your life can change for just being in proximity to somebody who committed crime. You can just be in your house and somebody will give you a brand new iPhone and you're like, thank you, Jesus, you're a kind person, you're a nice person. If it turns out that that mobile phone was robbed and stolen from somebody that was murdered, you are implicated and you will go to jail for it, for just being in possession of that mobile phone, unless you have a good lawyer. But since somebody's giving you second-hand phone, you're most likely broke, so you don't have the money to afford a good lawyer, so which means you will be going to jail. Because if this welder man probably had a good lawyer or could afford a good lawyer, 14 years is too much, I think, for just working on a vehicle you had no idea for. But unfortunately, that is the law. Or am I wrong somewhere? Maybe Aziz knew that the car was stolen or had a sense, but still went on. Maybe that's what the lawyer would prove. The lawyer would just have to prove that Aziz was aware that this car was stolen, but went ahead to work on it. And I think that most likely is why he's getting 14 years in prison. 14 whole years. Those of you who repair phones, those of you who, are always in charge of people's second-hand properties, you all got to be careful out there. Because if a property that is stolen from somebody that was murdered comes to you, and it's traced back to you, you will be like Aziz and you might be going to jail for life. The Fatinoye family story was really tragic because, I think they had two sons other than Oreoluwa, who drowned. They had lost their younger son from a football game. If I remember correctly, they used to have their last born who they said died while playing football. So a few years after that, this tragedy happens to them. And it goes to show that life can be so unfair sometimes. I feel like this is one family that, man, this is terrible. Terrible. It's sad. I don't know what else to say. I'm just glad that Lekon got to face the full extent of the law. I hope he's actually sentenced to death. I hope he dies. I hope so. Because it's a terrible thing to do. A horrible thing. And I'm glad he and his 3 people are all going. Send them to the electric chair. What they did is not forgivable. There should be no pardon. This is not even life imprisonment. Just straight to the electric chair. Literally. But I guess for our kind of channel or for our kind of content, good news is when somebody gets punished for a crime they committed. Because often at times, these people be getting away with it. But it's nice to see it happen. It's nice to see that the Fatinoye family would get justice. And they have. And it's a good thing. 2 years, though, was way too long. Jesus Christ. There's just some case that should just be done. But I guess you have to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. And this is kind of what it is. And eventually, in the end, Lekon has gotten... They can't say he didn't get his fair trial. It's unfortunate for the family. But it's a good thing that Lekon will, along with his cohort, be facing the death penalty. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notification buttons so whenever there's a new video, you'll be the first to get notified.